this is my official story on how I left the left. I was raised in a conservative Republican household. However, I went through some pretty dramatic changes about the end of high school. And by the time I started college, I was a Democrat, a liberal, and a hardcore feminist. I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. However, I had no idea why. I did not do any research on her, on the Democratic Party, on the policies that they had passed. I simply felt like a really good person being a Democrat. I felt like a woke, enlightened, spiritual being. I felt like I somehow had this higher understanding of how the world worked because I took one political science class. However, feeling good about myself very quickly transformed into a toxic lifestyle. And I began to make up stories about sexism and racism and tell lies about experiences of people I knew simply to try and prove points. So things just got worse and worse. I hated my parents because they were Republican. Anytime somebody would post something conservative on social media, I would attack them. And things just were really bad, but I felt like such a good person. So things started to change when I realized my best friend, who is a Latina and an immigrant, is a Trump supporter and had been since day one. And I simply could not wrap my head around the fact that a person with skin darker than mine would be a Trump supporter. It simply did not make sense to me. So I aggressively approached her about it. And I experienced something that I had never once experienced with a Democrat. She gave me answers that were very well researched, clearly educated, based on rational thought. All of these, reasons why she was a Republican and why she supported Donald Trump and the policies that she was standing behind. And I just had simply no way to respond to her. I had no material to have a conversation with her about it. I had nothing to respond to her about why I was a Democrat, except my personal feelings about it and that I was triggered, classic type A. So ever since that experience, I had kept this in the back of my mind, like shit, I really wish that I could, respond that way and be so well educated about what I stand for politically. But it was just kind of overwhelming to get into. I didn't want to start. I just wanted to keep being angry and feeling good about myself. So I continued to be a pretty hysterical person for about 4 years. I graduated with my degree in nursing, and the healthcare field is a very liberal climate, so I just continued with the group mentality of being a liberal and supporting the Democratic Party. However, I began dating a guy from Peru who was a conservative and who had experienced socialism and communism and terrorism all in his childhood. And things did begin to change from there. I started developing more conservative values without realizing it. My mentality about things started to shift. And I moved to Peru the beginning of this year. And walking away from America for a bit, stepping back, made me realize a lot of things. Living under a different form of government in a different society really got me thinking about America and what I love about it, and that I really do want to know why I believe what I believe. So I began to follow Donald Trump on Instagram. That was the best I could do at the moment. And he began talking about the World Health Organization and withdrawing funding, and he released a letter that he wrote to them, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is pretty good. And then I noticed a previous friend of mine who was a very strong liberal and Democrat was liking his posts on Instagram, and I was like, what? So I privately messaged her and I asked her about it, and we had a great conversation, and she told me, when you follow policies and not politics, you kind of open your eyes and you start to realize that the world is not what the media makes you believe it is. So I started doing research on my own. I started reading articles and looking at social statistics and researching policies that were being passed by both parties. And I realized that the Democratic Party is not what I thought it was. It was not the utopia that I believed it to be. However, I was not ready to come out about that publicly because the majority of my friends, especially on social media, were liberal, and I had quite a few immediate family members who were also liberal and strong Democrats. So I was just not ready for that. And then everything with George Floyd happened. And I just saw so many things going around Facebook and Instagram and Parler. And I was like, I just can't not say anything anymore. So I wrote a post on Facebook about Donald Trump. And I received so many comments and private messages calling me all sorts of names. I don't even want to get that much into it, but it was very, very, very ugly. Lots of backlash, lots of "you're racist," "you're a slut," things like that. And a lot of people being like, "I'm disappointed in you." And it just reminded me like this toxic culture of emotionally manipulating people into believing what you believe, into accepting what you want them to accept. It is so manipulative. And that moment I was like, I'm done. I'm washing my hands. I'm closing the door. I got online. I registered as a Republican. I'm ready to fill out my absentee ballot. But that's not the end. My family group chat got very politically heated. Things got really crazy. My liberal family was very disrespectful to the conservative side of my family, where we always let them, we keep topics off the table we think would upset them. And they simply were not showing the same kind of respect. So my fiance decided to comment, and he started sharing some personal experiences and statistics of what happened in Peru during socialism and communism, and the terrorist groups that came. And my liberal family members basically said, I don't give a shit. I don't care that your friends grew up parentless because they were murdered in their homes by terrorists. I don't care that you waited in a bread line to eat one meal a day. I just don't give a shit about any of that. And that is when I really, really, really came to grips with the fact that the left blatantly disregards truth. They blatantly disregard reality. They try and create things that simply do not exist. And they want to ignore things that do. So, if you are a Democrat on the fence about becoming a Republican, I simply would encourage you to research things yourself. It does not take more than 3 Google searches to realize what sort of policies are being passed on both sides and make a decision for yourself without the bias of the media and without censorship, to figure out really what side you want to be on and what kind of policies you want to see passed in your communities, in your cities, in your states, in your country. Really, it is time for us to think for ourselves and to research things and stop, looking at the Huffington Post. That's not research. So yes, that was my experience. I went from being a very toxic person to having a lot more peace of mind, knowing instead of feeling like I'm on the right side of the political spectrum, not being angry, being able to listen to other people, not spewing hatred at them simply because they share a different opinion as I do. So yeah, red pill, Trump 2020, God bless America.